Happy to see you all at this day's VBC lecture series. Today we will discuss what molecular biology labs can do together with companies to make their research more sustainable. And today we invited two people from two companies. One is from Merck and one is from NEB. We'll switch the order of events because Jeffrey Withford will join us from the US and he's not there yet, but we will start today with Christopher Kropat from NEB. And he will tell us more about what NEB is doing to make, I think, products and deliveries and so on more sustainable. So I'll stop sharing my screen. And hand over. But before I do that, so we'll have 2 times 2 minutes or 20 minutes talks, and we will have questions at the end. So if people have questions for either Christopher or Jeffrey, please add them in the chat, and then we'll come back to you at the end of the 2 talks. Okay, and with this, I'm happy to hand over to Christopher.
Yes, hello. So I think now I am sharing my screen. Wait, I actually stop. Where is it? Here. Okay. Now again sharing the screen. There we go. Okay, and yeah. So can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So hello, everyone. I'm happy to have you here and to see that you're interested in some backgrounds of a life sciences company. My name is Christopher Kropat. I'm a scientific sales rep of New England Biolabs and take care for the field of Austria. I'm now working almost 8 years for the company. And as you can imagine, these are also interesting as well as challenging times for us at the moment. Today, I'd like to give you an overview about the company New England Biolabs and our effort how to reduce our environmental footprint. However, the environmental concerns are just one part of our company's philosophy. And to understand that in the context, I also want to show you the other central pillars. First, I'd like to introduce the company New England Biolabs. For those who never heard about NEB, we are one of the world's leading companies in producing enzymes and reagents for use in molecular biology. Most important here are restriction enzymes, polymerases, DNA modifiers, but also kits that are based on these reagents, such as qPCR master mixes, NGS library prep kits, genome editing solutions, or RNA synthesis tools. NEB was founded in 1974. Hence, we are one of the oldest, if not the oldest company in the life sciences. NEB is located in Ipswich, approximately 30 miles north of Boston in Massachusetts. We are quite a small company. We have 500 employees worldwide. 30 of those work at NEB in Germany, where I am also employed. NEB Germany covers the sales field of Austria. That means when you are ordering something here in Austria, we will send it directly from Frankfurt. We are proud to be a privately held company. That means we are not a stock company. We have had 46 years of organic growth so far. That means we never bought another company to grow. And also we were never bought by another company or different company. The other way around is true. In 1999, we created a spin-off, the now very successful company Cell Signaling Technology, or CST. That means new people were hired and we could keep the focus on the molecular biology, while CST is focusing more on cell biology and the production of antibodies. NEB offers its products worldwide with 8 subsidiaries and 60 distributors. We see ourselves as a company by scientists for scientists. Around 50% of our employees have a scientific background, as I do. And a lot are still actively involved into basic research and, of course, product development. That NEB is a truly scientific company is also underlined by the fact that our Chief Scientific Officer is the Nobel Prize winner, Sir Richard Roberts, who won the prize in medicine in 1993 for the discovery of the alternative splicing. More than 1,200 publications were generated so far at or in cooperation with NEB. On our American homepage, you can often find open position for postdoctoral or internship programs. When talking about NEB, we also have to talk about the founder, Donald Combe, who passed away just 1 month ago in the age of 93 years. Don Combe was a true visionary, not just for the idea of producing and selling restriction enzymes. At that days in the 70s, research labs were producing their own enzymes, as you can imagine, in very different levels of quality. But also, he tried to create a company with a soul, a company that is driven by scientific curiosity rather than just by pure profit. Later in this talk, I will several times refer back to Don Combe. I hope it doesn't sound too glorifying, but a lot of the fundamental principles and philosophies are directly based on his ideas. As mentioned before, NEB is privately held. That was always the will of Don Combe. It means that we can decide freely what to do with the revenue and are independent to possible stockholders. Our core values can also be found underneath our logo: be inspired, drive discovery, stay genuine. These values lead to a unique climate at the NEB campus and can also be seen in the employee satisfaction. So for example, in 2018, in the Boston Globe magazine, NEB was ranked on the 2nd place in the category Top Places to Work. Not long after the company was founded, the parasitology work group was implemented. It is largely based on the vision of Don Combe. He was traveling repeatedly to the tropics and was witnessed by the suffering that was caused by the so-called neglected tropical diseases. He was deeply touched and decided to do something against these devastating infections, since the pharma companies did not care about it because there was no profit behind it. The goal of the program is to conduct basic research on parasites that cause these diseases that can be translated into methods in order to treat those. We focus mainly on nematodes, little worms that live in the human lymphatic system and cause diseases such as lymphatic filariasis or onchocerciasis. These patients often do not suffer just from the symptoms, but also from social stigmatization, as you can imagine, for example, in Africa or in South America. NEB is researching here mainly drug discovery, diagnostics, or on vaccine studies. And yeah, just to let you know, I've put the links of each program under the slides, and I've sent all the slides already to Sabrina. So I hope she can distribute it afterwards if you're interested. Very early, especially for American standards, Don Combe realized that especially the companies have a fundamental responsibility for the environment. These are usually consuming huge amounts of resources while producing tons of waste and wastewater. So he implemented very early different strategies into our company in order to cut down these resources. For example, in 1975, our catalog was printed already on 100% recycled paper. In 1976, we started a program to recycle the styrofoam boxes from shipping. And in the late 80s, a campus-wide recycling program for cans and bottles was implemented. That might not sound very spectacular for us in Europe, but in the US, it was almost revolutionary. All these developments can be found on a timescale on our webpage. Next, I want to focus on some more recent projects. As mentioned before, NEB is traditionally an enzyme producer rather than a supplier of plasticware. However, in the process of molecular cloning, proper DNA purification is key. So we decided to close that gap and start into nucleic acid purification. One of our founding principles is to develop state-of-the-art molecular biology reagents while being mindful of the environmental impact. This philosophy drove many aspects of the design when we developed our Monarch DNA purification kits. We were able to reduce the total plastic used in our kits by an average of 34% compared to the market leader. We did this by custom designing thinner walled columns and collection tubes while still maintaining maximum performance and durability. We also selected bottles for the buffers that are lighter weighted and are appropriately sized for the amount of buffer that they store. However, overall, we estimated that these small changes can add up to 140 tons of plastic that can be saved each year when everyone would switch to Monarch. Additionally, the Monarch boxes are produced from 100% post-consumer material and were designed sturdy and reusable. Also, we provide detailed instructions in the box how to recycle every component. And finally, all components of the kits can be purchased separately in case you're running out of one component too early. Lab Conscious is an online community of researchers that was founded by members of New England Biolabs. It is committed to reducing the environmental footprints of bench sites. There's a lot of information out there on the university level of ways to reduce consumption of resources in the labs. But there wasn't sort of an online standard for how those things were accessed. Lab Conscious started to compile those. So now we have kind of a one-stop shop of resources for those people. Lab Conscious is trying to bring that message into the lab that everyday things such as turning off the light, shutting down the sash of the cell culture huts, keeping the freezers clean and organized, or recycling in general can be made by any researcher anywhere to decrease the overall footprint in research and science. There's a mailing list where you can join in and be part of the online community. You will get info newsletter on a regular basis with tips around a greener lab. An effort that was in fact initialized at NEB Germany is the use of fully recyclable shipping boxes. NEB is the first and still only company in the life sciences that is shipping its -20 degrees Celsius goods in cardboard boxes that are insulated with straw or hemp. These boxes require 50 times less energy or primary energy in production and can be recycled easily via paper and organic waste. The system meets the strict criteria for reliable and sustainable shipping, such as to be shock absorbing and moisture regulating. More infos on that can be found on our German homepage. Furthermore, in all larger accounts, we have implemented freezer systems, so-called consignment stocks, where customers can purchase our products directly on site, as you probably know from the MFPL. Also, non-stock items can be ordered via these freezers, so the shipment is then once a week and is bundled in one package. This cuts down the packaging material even more. The MFPL here has a special situation. Here, in fact, we really send out one package every day since there is such a high turnover for our freezer. If you know our marketing material, such as the catalog or our brochures, you instantly see how important the environment and especially biodiversity is for us. In the catalog that is released every second year, we always focus on different environmental issues. All marketing materials, such as our catalogs, brochures, and flyers, are printed on recycled or at least FSC certified paper. That means it is currently or has currently the highest standard for non-recycled paper. Also, we try to reduce the material that is sent out by using analysis of our customer database and to try to keep that as updated as possible. Also in Germany, we reduced our newsletters from 4 times a year to 2 times. If we are using foils, for example, in order to bundle several brochures, these foils are generated from renewable raw material such as starch or sugar and not from fossil resources. Our headquarters in New England is LEED certified. That means environmental standards such as site sustainability, water efficiency, energy conservation, and atmospheric protection were considered while planning and building the facility. So for example, a heat recovery system is using the heat from exhausted air to heat the incoming fresh air. Furthermore, NEB in the US is running its own solar-powered wastewater treatment facility. This is a very unique way to treat the wastewater from the laboratories, the kitchen, or restrooms. They are all blended and processed through a series of physical and biological filters before it is ultimately discarded from the facility and then recycled into the groundwater. Other companies, especially from life sciences buildings, are usually sending their wastewater to a municipal wastewater treatment facility. And from there, it is usually dumped into a river or the ocean. So with NEB's own facility, almost 100% of the wastewater is reused that we take from the town. Another goal of Don Combe was the preservation of biodiversity. On his numerous travels to the tropics and the Caribbean, where he was collecting the bacterial species in order to isolate different enzyme classes, he was overwhelmed by the vast biodiversity. Unfortunately, this biodiversity is disappearing in an enormous rate, especially in the rainforest in South America and Indonesia. These are very endangered, as well as the marine ecosystems. And with the fast loss of this biodiversity, we are also losing the genomic information about these species. This information can be, however, extremely valuable, for example, in medicine and or biotechnology. So in order to prevent that loss of that information, Donald Combe created the Ocean Genome Legacy Center. Basically, it's a bank of, or a library of DNA samples and tissue samples from marine organisms collected from all over the world. And what's most important about this collection, it is available for the whole scientific community in order to support research. After its foundation at NEB in the year 2000, the collection moved to the coast on the campus on the Northeastern University. The samples are available to the scientific community throughout an online catalog. However, as any other company, NEB is consuming energy and hence producing CO2. Of course, we try to reduce that as much as possible. But as a counterbalance, we are driving reforestation, for example, in Uganda or Costa Rica. So for example, in the 1169 project, we are supporting reforestation and contribute to the preservation of the Kibale National Park in Uganda. It harbors the greatest variety of primates in West Africa and is home to 1,500 chimpanzees. Besides his interest in science and environment, Donald Combe was an art lover and philanthropist. He initialized several foundations in order to support art projects and strengthen the local community to improve the life for its citizens and future generations. With the 40th anniversary in 2014, NEB came up with an endeavor to seek out for people in the science world who are working to make the world a better place. So every year we are giving out the Passion in Science Award in 4 categories in areas that are important for NEB as a company: science, humanitarian duty, environmental stewardship, and arts and creativity. Everyone worldwide can apply or nominate a colleague. and applications will be accepted in between June 1st and July 1st. So if you're interested, please visit our Passion in Science homepage for information on that. And finally, I want to close this presentation with a quote about our company's founder that was made shortly after his death. Don Combs' vision for how a company could be run was unconventional, but highly effective. People and passion over process and profit, the supply of high quality reagent at a fair price, the co-mingling of basic and applied research, and the prioritization of protecting the environment and advancing science. His vision resulted in a family-like culture where everyone has a voice and all employees feel valued. Okay, I hope I could give you a brief overview about our company's philosophy and show that the environmental statements for us are not just greenwashing, but instead are truly part of our philosophy. So we would be very happy if you consider us as your supplier to support a quite small company, especially if environment as well as the other values matter to you. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks, Christopher. We seem to be missing Jeffrey from Merck.
Oh, okay.
I think he logged into the wrong Zoom, but anyway, so herefore I would open already the questions for Christopher. We'll try to find Jeffrey in the meanwhile, but please post your questions in the chat, and then we can ask Christopher some of the questions. So to start off, I had a question concerning also deliveries and packaging. Is there a good way to measure that and the difference before, because this is always put in the gray area of CO2 measurements. And is there, can you give us some numbers or some percentages of how much this would impact of research? Do you have?
Oh, I think this is hard to put into numbers. So there is some information online about especially about these recyclable cardboard boxes. But I think they state mainly that we save around 50 times of energy in total compared to the classical styrofoam boxes.
Okay.
Yeah, and also some people are asking if we can take the boxes back. We were also thinking about that also before when we were sending out the styrofoam boxes in Germany. In fact, we took the styrofoam boxes back. In Austria, we never did this, because when you do the calculation or if you do the math, sending back these boxes to NEB in Germany is consuming more energy, because you're essentially transporting air on a truck back to Germany. So this is not really sustainable. So and now it's really no problem at all. You can recycle the cardboard box with the paper waste, and the insulation is done by straw or hemp, so it differs a little bit. But this you can put to the organic waste, or you can even feed it to your animals if you have rabbits or something like this, or can put it on the strawberry field. So this is really very sustainable.
If people want to ask questions, they can also raise their hands. They can use the raise their hands function, I think. I'm just, Jörg, can you help me? I think I'm not seeing any of the chats at the moment.
Unfortunately, there are no questions so far.
Okay.
Clarified everything. Yeah.
Good. So what is the main challenges still ahead for NEB for labs? Because I mean, in principle, Europe has committed to becoming CO2 neutral and I guess maybe the US soon too again.
Hopefully, with the new president.
So, but we're quite far away from that at the moment as researchers, right? So we produce quite a lot of topics, and many of the products your company produces have to be cooled or even stored at very low temperatures. Is there any program or initiatives to reduce the CO2 footprint of certain things?
Yeah, as I mentioned, we are running to counterbalance that. We are running forestation initiatives. So especially the one in Costa Rica, we are planning planting trees on 10,000, I think, acres. I don't. So it's yeah, well, it's hard to say. I can find out this information for you. This will counterbalance a specific amount of CO2 in the next, also in a longer period of time, like in 25 years. But I'm not sure about the exact amount of the CO2 that will be counterbalanced with that. But there are programs to address that issue.
Good morning, Jeffrey.
All right, great. Okay, so we were getting a little bit nervous, Jeffrey, but so maybe we'll. Yeah, sorry, I think we are having the wrong link or something mixed up. Anyway, so maybe is it okay, Christopher, if we interrupt you shortly, and then maybe you stay with us till the end, and then we'll continue the Q&A at the end. Jeffrey, welcome. So for everybody who doesn't know, Jeffrey's from Merck. He's the sustainable coordinator. And I think his slides are ready already, so I'll just hand over to you, Jeffrey.
Excellent, I appreciate it.
Good, all right.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be with you. I apologize for the panic-inducing moment on my side, but I'm thrilled to be able to talk to you about what we're doing in terms of sustainability for Merck and all of the various brands that you know and hopefully love from us. From Sigma Aldrich, Millipore, Millicue, Sepulco, a newer one that you may or may not have heard of. But this represents all of those. And really what we're focusing on is how do we drive sustainability into the products themselves? We, of course, are going to work on those surround sound things, but really thinking about the product life cycle and how we can continuously introduce sustainability throughout the entire life cycle. So thinking about raw materials, thinking about how we package and distribute it, thinking about the product use at your site, and then thinking about end of life and what that means. But then taking it and driving it also into our suppliers and our partners and our vendors. Because this is a challenge that we all know is not just going to be on one of our shoulders. Collectively, it's all of us together. And so that's really important that we understand the chain of events that affect things like the footprint, waste creation and reduction opportunities, water use. All of these things are collectively challenges that we're going to have to solve together. We focus our work in 7 areas. We don't have time to cover all 7 of them today, but if you've got questions about anything, certainly reach out to me afterwards. But today we're going to focus on a couple of areas here, thinking about the Design for Sustainability program, some of our greener alternative projects, packaging in particular. These are kind of high touch, important areas that are very specific to what you are dealing with and hopefully some of the things, but know that there is a robust number of initiatives happening here to really drive change through our entire product portfolio. So let's talk about Design for Sustainability. This is a program that has been in our system for a while, but we actually just reintroduced it a few weeks ago with a totally new external facing approach. Previously, it had been internal facing, so we wanted to change that and flip it around. and take it and turn it external facing. So what you can see here is we're looking at how we can institute sustainable design at the early stages of our R&D programs throughout our entire business. And that's really the important component here, is that we're instituting this across our R&D system for all of our businesses. So that way we can take this product lifecycle, which you see, and really dive in deeper to it and understand each one of those stages and think about where those opportunities exist, and also get feedback from our stakeholders. You know, they're the ones using the products every day. You use our products every day. So you are going to have some of these ideas that could potentially help us to crack the carbon nut, for instance, if there is an opportunity there. We then are going to take, assess, and select the target criteria that we're going to work towards. There are approximately 23 areas that we focus on in 7 categories. So anything from water use, material use, innovation, energy use, all of those things come together to create this system. And then finally, we develop the product and assess the improvement so that we can quantify and showcase what that improvement is to help you understand the changes that were made. One of the things that I hope you see is that data and transparency is a key component of our program so that you are more informed and can make better choices in how you can reduce your footprint. Because at the end of the day, that's really one of the most important things, is arming you with data. Another component that we use to address our footprint of our products is our re-engineering program. And we have a significant portfolio of products from the chemical and reagent side of our business, where we're able to utilize things like the 12 principles of green chemistry, which are not just chemistry related, but of course, across the entire portfolio of science. And then a system that we created called Dozen, which helps quantify the improvements that are made through this process. And one of the important parts that we have done is taken the 12 principles and had algorithms created for each one of those principles so that we can take a quantitative view of how the change we have made has impacted, of course, the final product. And I'll give you one of those examples so you can see it in practice in particular. So here is a product that we manufacture. It's called beta amylase. It's one of our specialty biochem products, an enzyme that is used. We previously used a significant amount of materials to make this product happen. And if you know our products, they come in bottles that are about this big. So thinking about using 6,000 pounds of sweet potatoes. So if I can do quick math in my head, you're looking at approximately, I want to say 3,000 kilos-ish of sweet potatoes, 1,900 gallons of acetone, and a significant amount of electricity to increase the temperature and the pressure for this product. We had 2 scientists who were actually doing some research at home into craft brewing and craft winemaking. So, you know, not work related, but they came across a text from the 1950s about stripping a polyphenol more efficiently and thought, wait a minute, that actually could work for something that we're doing in the office. And so they brought that in. And this is what they found. They used it. And what they were able to do was really significant. We actually were able to decrease the amount of raw materials to 2,000 pounds of sweet potatoes, eliminated the organic solvent. So now it's a completely aqueous-based process, and then eliminated the need for the additional electricity, increased the temperature and the pressure. Still coming out with the same quantity of material, and actually the quality of the material increased by 15%. So it's a better quality product. There is waste reduction. There is elimination of materials. There's decrease of energy use. This sounds really good. Now, I can't be around to tell you that story all the time, but how can we quantify this to document that improvement so that you're more informed? And this is where Dozen comes in. So we took the before and after and put them into the system and compared them. So you take the recipe of the manufacturing, you take things like GHS information and the safety data sheet information, and that goes into the system as well, into these defined categories. And then the calculations occur. And here's what you can see. We had a 100% improvement in energy efficiency. We had a 97% improvement in waste prevention driven by the eliminated use of the organic solvents, and the reduction of the waste. So this helps to give us more information, understand these improvements. And I think that is one of the key things, is having data to back up these types of improvements so that you can get more clarity on this. And we're going to continue to push this envelope. We don't think this is finished. We think there's a lot more to do here, but it's starting that process of quantification that I think is so important. We also then took that tool and we've now taken it and turned it customer facing. So you, if you're looking at a process that you're doing and you want to say, you know, I want to compare using this material in a process or that material in a process, you can access Dozen yourself on our website, log in, you have a secure location, and you can do those comparisons and do the scoring system yourself to see what the footprint comparisons are. You can see all the calculations and how they're done. This is completely open and clear. Once again, that transparency is really key, but this is an important tool. How do we get data into your hands so that you can make these judgments yourself with readily accessible data? So now let's talk about some of the product examples. As you know, we have more than 300,000 products, so there's a lot there, but there is a lot of room for improvement, and hopefully we can showcase some of those today. So I apologize, I grabbed an old slide here and it says 890. Right now we're up to about 1,015 greener alternative products that we've got available. All of our products that are considered greener alternatives have the globe with the arrow around it and fit into one of the 4 categories below. To be determined a greener alternative product, it needs to have documentation of some sort. So for instance, our DFS developed products have the scorecard from our R&D process. Those 12 principles aligned products meet one or more of the 12 principles of green chemistry and have third-party published research that support them. So you start to see this kind of backing from a data standpoint of why we would put them in these categories. So today I'm just going to cover a few of those examples so that you can see and showcase what we've been doing and what it means in terms of the improvements that have happened. So our Stereo Cup E product is our first product out of our new Design for Sustainability program that I was just mentioning. And here you can see some pretty remarkable improvements. If you saw the old version of Stereo Cup E, you would see that there was a plastic funnel on top of where that little screw top was. So you would take the media, pour it in, it would filter through. Now, instead, you just connect the bottle to this filter top, and it comprises the filtration, all of that, which leads to a significant reduction of plastic. So up a 47% reduction in plastic, helping to cut the raw material usage, which also helped decrease the weight of the product, which means that there's fewer emissions from a shipping perspective, and we can reduce a bunch of other things. We also had a 73% reduction in plastic and corrugated packaging that we sent out. So all of this on top of it, and then FSC certified packaging to support it. So all of this comes together to have a more robust approach with more data points on how you can, be more informed about the products you're choosing from an environmental standpoint. Let's go next to our Zoomabs product. So this was a new product that we introduced in 2019, and Zoomabs is a new generation of antibodies that are taken from one single cell to start, or one single animal to start with, and then are able to be replicated for eternity, basically. So we have a library of every specific antibody that we've got within the portfolio, which now I think Zoomabs offers approximately 200 products, and we're going to continue to expand the number of products as well as the number of animal types where these antibodies are coming from. But Zoomabs takes the, I think, remarkable performance and sustainability standards and really ups the game. So here you've got a preservative and animal-free substance. It's in a lyophilized product. So this way we can ship them at room temperature. So it can be shipped ambiently. That way there's no need for a polystyrene cooler, the ice bricks, additional packaging. We're able to significantly improve the packaging and support a few other things as well. So you can see on this some of the principles that are backed up from a green chemistry standpoint. But we're really able to decrease packaging by 7x and expecting annual emissions reduction of 164 tons of CO2, which you guys work with antibodies all the time, so you know that an antibody does not come in a big package. So getting 164 tons of CO2 reduction out of that is a really important, and I would say big win, even though the number is quite small. But that's what it's going to take, is improvements on these small scale things all across the entire portfolio, but also quantifying them so you understand what the change in that improvement is. Another one that I just want to highlight in our solvent portfolio, so maybe not as relevant to you, but styrene is a new novel dipolar aprotic solvent that we introduced at the beginning of 2019. It is a potential replacement for NMP and DMF. And what's really remarkable about this is it's a bio-based solvent. So it comes from scrap trees and sawdust in the paper making process, in comparison to its petroleum-based counterparts. And this is a really significant change because styrene has proved wildly effective. And there are a lot of research papers showcasing its efficacy, which at the end of the day, I think is a big challenge, I think, for us to make sure that we're providing scientists with things that are guaranteed to work. You know, there was this kind of green worry that you would get something that was maybe greener, but it didn't do what you needed it to do. And I think that's what we're really working to prove, is that with these materials, we can get you something that is as effective, but has a better environmental footprint. So styrene has a footprint that's about 1/5 that of NMP, for instance, and has the potential to significantly reduce carbon emissions for that solvent alone. You know, if we could take out all of the NMP usage in the world and replace it with styrene, we're looking at 850,000 metric tons of CO2 on an annual basis. So a really significant improvement. Let's move on to packaging really quickly. We introduced a program called Smash Packaging, which we started working on approximately late 2017, but really introduced it in 2019 with a goal to do some pretty significant things. We have the 3 pillars that you see in the top, which is optimizing resources, choosing more sustainable materials, and designing for a circular economy, with 4 goals underneath it in shrink, secure, switch, and save. I'm not going to read all of those goals, but basically what we want to do is really, once again, bring transparency and clarity to improving our packaging so that our customers understand we're doing the best that we can to optimize what we do. You know, the number of times where I get tweets that showcase bad packaging from us are more than I can count. And that gives us a lot of fuel to work towards these improvements with our distribution and logistics teams. But I've got some really good examples of the things that we're starting to make improvements on that are making a significant change from an environmental footprint standpoint. We previously sent our solvents out in polystyrene or styrofoam containers to secure them in shipment. We moved to a molded pulp solution and have steadily been increasing and replacing those polystyrene inserts. And last year alone, we used more than 3 million of these molded pulp inserts, which are 100% recycled and 100% recyclable. And that replacement has equivocated to more than 65,000 metric tons, cubic metric tons of polystyrene that has not gone into the environment, which is the equivalent. You may wonder, why in the world are there planes in the upper corner of this slide? Well, that amount of styrene is the equivalent to 89 jumbo jets worth of styrofoam that is no longer going into the environment. So a pretty significant, I would say, reduction in waste that's being generated through this process. And really what we want to showcase, how do we continue to drive these types of packaging innovations, which are pretty simplistic, into the market so that we can increase impact. Another one that is certainly top of our list is a process to introduce the fully recyclable cooler systematically across our entire portfolio. So right now, a couple of companies have been leading the way, and our partners over at New England Biolabs, which have done an amazing job. I think we were one of 2 companies that had a cooler take back program in certain geographies. But I think we are all realizing the need to move towards a better solution for coolers. But this is one of the things that we're focusing on currently. We have introduced a pilot of the fully recyclable cooler and are working on expanding this across our geographies. So we have identified suppliers and some of the supply chains. We're still working through quite a few more. But what's interesting here is, once again, if we look at our entire supply chain, if we're able to take out all of the polystyrene coolers that we use in our system, you're going to be looking at approximately 29 jumbo jets worth of styrofoam that we'll be removing from our system. So once again, data and quantification to be able to back that up, to showcase and share with you about how, making these changes, purchasing from us, you can participate in that reduction. So I'm going to stop there. I've talked quite a bit, and I probably talked very quickly. I apologize, but there was a lot to put into a short period of time. So with that, I think we can turn it back over for questions and the next part.
All right, super. Thanks, Jeffrey. Thanks for joining us. Great. So please, for the people in the Zoom meeting, please put your questions in the chat, and then we can ask them to the speakers. Christopher is also still there, so if you want to ask questions to Christopher from NEB, this is also fine. I'll start off with one question for Jeffrey. Comparing the two companies, the Sigma or Merck seems to have taken the road of data analysis and CO2 measurements very strongly, which I think is a great way of doing it. Is there any reason for that, for taking that on so strongly? Because you could just say, well, we'll just change and then do it. And then my follow-up question is, I guess if we say now we're at 100% or at 100% level of CO2, how far can you go down with all the measurements?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that we made an educated guess on is that we know that scientists are data-driven people, and from my standpoint, and I'll tell you personally, I'm not a huge, I don't love data. It's not my favorite thing. But I can tell you it helps make better decisions when you've got good data. And I think that's really what drives the approach that we've taken, is to understand where are these places where, I wouldn't have thought, to be honest, that the solvent bottles would have delivered so much styrofoam. But the data helps us make these decisions. But I also think it helps make a case to our customers who are scientists who work with data all the time, that they have a level of comfort to understand where these things are coming from and what the impacts are, because it just increases, hopefully, the level of trust with us as an organization, that there's that level of transparency. We're getting these things, verified by third parties. That's the commitment we've made. So I think that's the component that's the approach that we've taken, is that the data is going to help us do a better job with increasing engagement and progress with this. In regards to how far we can go, there's a long way to go. I don't know what NEB's supply chain looks like, but I can tell you ours is complex and it goes deep, and it is wildly global. And that presents a challenge, because for our suppliers, we are not necessarily the largest purchaser from them. We're usually a small component of what they, sell. So it's going to take a very fragmented life sciences industry to collectively come together and say, this is important for us, because I think there is a lot of improvement that can be made. But you're going to have the companies who are involved in this really leading the way. And, I think there are, a couple of forward-looking companies. NEB is one who has just been consistent with this for such a long time as well. But we're going to have to band together and really drive that down. But I think there's a long way for us to go. I think this science is kind of like the last frontier from a sustainability standpoint, because it's difficult to accomplish what we need to do scientifically, but then also the environmental component at the same time.
Yeah, so maybe a follow-up question, if nobody's putting anything in the chat, for both of you, is what can we do? So if we now turn it out, you presented what the companies are doing. What could we do as helping you? Because I guess we are not the biggest consumer, because I guess industry is far way ahead. But we are teaching the future scientists, right, at the university. So I was wondering, do you have any comments or are you looking for collaborations, or what kind of initiatives are you supporting, hoping for? Maybe we start with Christopher and then we go to Jeffrey.
Yeah, so I think the one main goal is the education, that people can get aware of the problems, and this is where you can take action, explain that there is really a need also in science and research to reduce waste and energy consumption, and then collaborate with companies like Merck or NEB, with companies that really try to make an effort here to reduce these resources. And of course, we hope that other companies also will join into that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we have been really looking at as a lever and have been working with nonprofit organizations is the development of more curriculum that can be taught at higher ed to engage students with thinking about sustainability, green chemistry, greener science, just in general, and making those resources freely available. So organizations like Beyond Benign and My Green Lab, we've worked with them to develop open source curriculum that can be utilized right now, for instance, at institutions, anywhere in the world who are teaching these subjects, because that's really where you're going to turn kind of the impact wheel. If you can start churning out students who are thinking about this right from the get-go, rather than having to re-educate once they're in industry or further in their academic journey, that's really where you're going to get I think the impact. And for me, that's such an important piece. We're also working with the dozen system. It is getting implemented into higher education curriculum. So starting this winter, University of California, Berkeley is going to be implementing dozen in their teaching curriculum. So I think it's having those tools and utilizing them early, so people are even thinking about this as they make decisions, because that's typically the biggest thing, is you just don't think about it. So if you can make people think about it, it's a big change.
So I'll keep asking questions, but if people want to add questions, please either raise your hand or put something in the chat. We'll go on for another 5 minutes, I guess, and then we'll end the seminar. Yeah, I mean, the other, following up on that, I guess for Jeffrey is so the antibodies is something I also use on a regular basis. How easy is it to convince people that now they come on room temperature and they're completely functional? Is this like a big challenge? And I guess maybe also NEB has products like that. They want to shift because I guess it makes a huge. I mean, definitely if you talk about even dry ice shipments, I mean, this makes a huge difference, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's almost like there was that, meme that was like, is the dress gold or is the dress blue? And I think that's one of the challenges we face in terms of making a transition, because we like what works, we like what we know. And I think that's part of it is there enough documentation? Are there enough scientific papers that give researchers comfort that these solutions can be implemented and replicated on a consistent basis so that their research, their time isn't wasted? And I think that's been one of the focuses that we've had, is to ensure that there's a good roadmap for utilization of how these products that are different in nature and may not be common or something you're comfortable with, how they can be utilized. But we're confident in their performance and their efficacy. But the true test is, are you guys confident enough from a customer standpoint to utilize them? So we're hoping that we can build that confidence in you.
Yeah. Christopher, do you want to comment on that, or?
Yeah, we are also constantly working on these processes. For example, as Jeffrey mentioned, with the dried antibodies, how's it called? Yeah, like the antibodies shipping at room temperature. We had this program as well with the cell-seeking technology antibodies that we covered until 2018. Now they are selling the products on their own. But there are also, if possible, we send the antibodies in envelopes at room temperature. So that was something we changed in the last, I would say, 5 years. And also at NEB, we try to always find out or develop new products that substitute energy or resource consumption solutions. For example, DNA purification for Sanger sequencing in the past was mainly so the purification was did with plastic kits. And now there is, for example, a new way that is based on enzymes, how to clean up that with enzymes. And this is the production of waste is way lower with these kits. So we always try to find new solutions here.
Super. There's one question in the chat from Clara. So she asks most for both of the speakers. Since there are no official regulations for CO2 reduction yet, how do you see the efforts of companies? Do you see it as a disadvantage or an advantage? And would official requirements help or rules help to because it looks like both companies have taken already the approach to go more sustainable, which I think is very good. So do you feel it's difficult or it's a benefit? Christopher, maybe first. Yeah.
In my opinion, this has to be regulated, yes. So, but I'm a person, so probably it's not the very American way, but I think environmental standards have really to be regulated by the governments. Yeah, for sure.
But is it a disadvantage?
But it's my personal. It's my so this is my personal statement. So I don't know if it. I cannot speak completely for the company, but I would say, yeah.
But do you feel it's a competitive disadvantage at the moment, or no, or that?
No, because we are already trying to do something in that. Yeah.
Okay, Jeffrey, what the American point of view?
Yeah. I think based just on the last week that we've lived over here in the US, you see the likelihood of regulation. And I think that's the challenge is we're global companies. And so for the competitive landscape to be equal, there is not going to be, common agreement on what that regulation is going to be globally, to my viewpoint. And I think this is the challenge you have with companies is you've got some companies who do a really good job at this, and then you've got some bad actors who do a really bad job at it. And so I think the competitive disadvantage question is a really interesting one because, to be honest, we are proactively doing this on our own accord. We think this is the right way to go about it. We think that customers will end up choosing us because of this. That's not to say then that we don't have competitors who are not doing who are doing way less than what we're doing, and people are still choosing them. And so there you have this, missed opportunity in terms of, well, if there was regulation and they had to do this, they would either be able to compete or they wouldn't be able to compete, or they'd have to change, what they're doing to be able to compete. So there definitely is a lost opportunity there. I think, once again, maybe I'm woefully too optimistic, but I really do think that for those companies who have committed to this and are showcasing progress and commitment to it and being clear about what they're doing, I have a sense that in the end, the market will reward them accordingly. But in the absence of, I would say, political alignment around the world, I think it's going to be tough from a regulatory perspective to get there. So I'm just going to really commit to doing the best we can to make the improvements and be transparent about them.
Super. So I'll end with one question, more or less getting back to the tweet comment from Jeffrey. So if we see something we don't like, who should we tweet or who should we contact for both companies? Or because I mean, I think when we started our climate group, I think was when NEB started sending the stuff in the straw boxes, and I was like, look, great, things are moving. So, but still, like you said, there's subcontractors or different pipelines at different companies or different places. So is there a need to contact or tell people like, look, next time maybe do it differently, or is this too complicated, or is there a way we can give feedback? That's what I wanted to ask you.
Yeah, I think
So
from
for
our
NEB,
go ahead,
please, Jeffrey,
Christopher.
go ahead. Yeah, so for NEB, you always especially here in Austria, you always can contact me. I'm essentially NEB Austria. I'm the only person working here. So you can always let me know if you see somewhere where we can make improvements. Yeah, just send me an email or call me.
Super. Jeffrey?
You know, I think our multiple teams might just want to beat me for saying this, but certainly you can contact me, but also don't hesitate to do social media. This is part of how, I don't want to ever encourage shaming, but just encouragement of ways that, we can improve. The visibility helps. The visibility changes the conversation in terms of recognizing that this is a public issue and this is a challenge and people are paying attention to it. And it certainly has an effect. I will say that without question. But I think your point that you made about the good things too, share the good things, share where you see companies doing it right. When you get the straw box from NEB, share that and understanding that reduction, because that also, that's part of it. We don't not just always the negative, if you could, but the positive and the negative. We want the balance of both, because there are instances of getting it right, but there are instances where we need to improve, and it's clear. So we'll take it however you want to give it to us. Just be nice, please. That's the only thing I ask.
Super. So yeah. So with this, I thank both speakers. So thanks for taking the time to present what your companies are doing. It was really great to have the Q&A too, and get a feeling of what we can do and how we can work together. Just for the people still in the meeting, we'll have a next seminar on the 1st of December on CO2 offsetting. So if people are interested in that, is a little bit what was discussed today. Is we probably don't make the CO2 zero, so we'll have to discuss how we want to offset the last part, and that will be the topic of the next talk on the 1st of December. All right, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Ciao.
Thank you.
It's nice that we had such a nice advertising